Hello, my fellow speakers and my friends. Welcome to Speaking with the Speaker tonight. As you may have noticed, I am in my new citadel of solidarity, or whatever you want to call it. I have moved offices within my house, so I'm actually in a different room. We did some switcherooing yesterday with our kids and stuff, and so I've been relegated to the basement. So yeah, that's why you might notice that it looks a little different behind me than it normally does. Same posters, just different configuration. But no, this is actually going to be a good thing. And welcome to everyone in the chat. Vegas SYN 333. Let's see who else we got. We got Purple Valkyrie and Adega Outlaw. Welcome. Thank you for coming tonight, guys. I'm really excited about this stream because, well, I always say that. I'm always excited. But I'm excited about this one because it is about one of the funniest, one of the best books that I've ever gotten to listen to or read. It is chock full of what I always think of as British humor, which is very, it relies a lot on wit, sarcasm, and looking at life in a different way. And I love British humor because I spent 2 years in Great Britain, and so yeah, it's just one of my favorite things to like Blackadder. Have You Been Served? Some of the British TV shows that you get to watch, that they have that witty, just kind of fun humor that you don't always find out there, and so that's one thing about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and Doug Adams in general, that they just have some really fantastic humor and some kind of fun, interesting insights. One of the things I love about this book is that it is a lot of different. It looks at the world in a very different way. And that's what I like. He'll be talking along. I actually got the audiobook of this, and it comes with Stephen Fry is the reader, and he just does an amazing job. If you remember, he was actually the voice of the guide in the movie. So before we get into the book, let's get into the movie, because yeah, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the film, was let's see, what's a good way to describe this? It was bad. It was terrible. The casting for it was actually pretty decent. I really did like a lot of the actors that they had do it. Billy Bailey was in it. He's a British comedian. You got Warwick Davis. He was actually the physical representation of Marvin, the depressed robot, which is such a good character, but was voiced by, I just lost his name, Alan Rickman, the late, great Alan Rickman, who was, I love Alan Rickman. He was just so funny and so good in every role that he did. I loved any time I got to see him. I loved him in Love Actually, the Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and who can forget him as the bad guy in Die Hard. So Hans Gruber, I think it was Hans. But yeah, he was just so good, and the perfect guy to voice Marvin. Then you had Martin Friedman as Arthur Dent, which I thought that was great. He did a great job. I really like Martin Friedman. Yeah, like I said, you had Stephen Fry as the guide, the voice of the guide, the narrator. You had Richard Griffiths, who was Vogon, the Vogon commander, Prostetnik Jeltz, which he's the captain of the ship that you see in the first thing. But then, I mean, it had a lot of great actors. It's Zoe, what's her name? Zoe Saldana, Zoe Deschanel. Deschanel. I can never say that girl's name right, so I apologize to her. And but she was pretty good as Trillian. I don't know that I would have picked her for Trillian. but she was pretty good. I mean, she did a good job. The problem is that they didn't follow the book. They didn't really stick to the book, and so it caused some issues. One of the only parts of that movie that I actually found entertaining and really funny is when they go down to the one planet, and I think it's a Vogon planet or something. Anyway, they're walking along, and if they have any thoughts, these little hands flip up and smack him in the face. And I'm sorry, but that was probably one of the funniest parts in that whole in that whole show. I'm just like, I mean, it's not in the book. It doesn't talk about that in the book at all that way. But I thought, that was pretty creative, and that was kind of a witty, funny thing that they did in the film. But overall, and they can't remember, the Slarty Bartfast was played by Billy Barty, I think. Hang on just a second. Let me see if I can pull up who. Billy Knightley. That's right. Sorry. And I love Billy Knightley. I've loved Billy Knightley ever since he was in Underworld. He plays the main bad guy, Victor, in Underworld, which is one of my favorite films, mainly because it has just one of the hottest girls. Yeah, she's my fantasy girl. And I just lost her name. Isn't that terrible? But yeah, she's fantastic. But so I remember him from that. So I mean, this just had some really great actors. It had Sam Rockwell as Zaphod Beeblebrox. I don't think I'd have picked Sam Rockwell. I'd have picked someone. I would have picked somebody British actually to play that role instead of an American playing that role. He's not a bad actor, but I just didn't like what he did with that character. I did not like the way they portrayed the two heads thing, because the way it's described in the book, he actually has two heads, not like a flip up head where there's a head underneath and then a head on top. I did not like how they did Zaphod Beeblebrox's double head. I did not like that at all. Also, if any of you guys are fans of the book or fans of the movie and you want to come in and talk about this with me tonight, I'd love to have anybody who's interested. So if you're interested, give me a shout in the chat and I'll throw you a link, or I'll throw a link out in chat. Because I know that I can't be the only one who's just a mega fan of this. So it was, I love the poetry. Sorry, Dig is putting some stuff out here. But yeah, it's sorry, and I'm getting used because I've moved my monitors around, so I apologize if I seem confused about which way I'm looking to find the camera or the monitor that I'm wanting to find, because my monitors are reversed from the way they were in my old office. So this is going to take some getting used to, probably for you guys watching as well, and I apologize for that. But yeah, so the film was all right, and it had its moments and a great cast, but it did not capture what I felt was the spirit of the book. The way they tried to make it out like a happy ending, like Earth is rebuilt and stuff. And there will be spoilers in this, so just so you're aware, if you haven't read or seen the movie or whatever, then yeah, you might want to be careful, because I'm going to talk about everything. Because I've just been recently re-listening to the audio book in preparations for this, because I listen to it about once every 6 months. Just because it's that good, I can listen to it that often and never get really tired of it. But yeah, it is just his way of looking at things just make me laugh. Like there's one point in the book where they're talking about ballpoint pens, and there was this guy who couldn't figure out what was happening to his ballpoint pens, and so he went and did research and searched the galaxy and found that there was a planet where all of the ballpoint pens were migrating to, like they're their own life form. And then it talks later about how Zaphod Beeblebrox actually has a secondhand ballpoint pen business, and he was really familiar with this guy that went and found these things. But they find out that this guy's a lunatic. They go to try and find the planet that he says he found, and there's nothing there. So it is just really, really funny. the different ways. But I mean, if so getting into the specific characters, so we have Arthur Dent, who's our main character through the book. And this starts with with just basically him trying to defend his house that's about to be knocked down to make way for a bypass around the town that he lives in. And this idea of the bypass becomes kind of a theme in the book, at least for the first half of it, because he's trying to save his house from being knocked down, and ultimately the Earth is destroyed to make room for like a galaxy spatial bypass. And just when he's sitting there arguing with the guy that's trying to knock his house down, the council guy. And for those of you who aren't English or British, council is like their local government and stuff. So like they have like council houses, and the council is the one that everybody talks about as like the local representation of government. And so you'll hear them talk about that in this book and stuff, how he's like, well, why didn't anybody know about this bypass being in? Well, it's like, well, it's been on display for 6 months. He's like, oh yeah, I went to find where it's on display. It was on display in the basement, in the back room, in a room where it was stuck into a file cabinet in a bathroom that said, beware the lion, or beware the tiger, was a sign on the door. Just, oh my gosh, and it's just that juxtaposition, that odd way of looking at the world, that just makes this book so much fun to read or to listen to if you do the audiobook. And so Arthur Dent's trying to argue with this guy, and so he ends up laying down in front of a bulldozer to try and stop them from knocking his house down. He's laying in his bathrobe in the road trying to stop this bulldozer. And I love the way that Doug Adams gives you kind of an internal monologue in what's going on inside the people's head as he's talking, and as they're actually saying things. He'll explain to you like what their thoughts were. And it's just so fun, because like Arthur Dent's walking through his house, and he's just like, he keeps thinking yellow. There's something wrong with the color yellow. Comes to find out, it's because he's been kind of catching this view out of his peripheral vision of the yellow bulldozer that's about to knock his house down. And so he runs out there to try and stop it anyway. And this I cannot remember the guy's name, the council guy's name, but he's hilarious. What's going on in that guy's head as he's trying to talk Arthur into letting them knock his house down is just hilarious, because somewhere back in his distant past, he was like a Mongol, or there was Mongol warriors in his past. And so like he keeps having mental images of people in furry hats yelling at him while Arthur Dent's trying to convince him not to knock his house down. And so it's just like, because that's how my brain works. My brain is very visual. When things are happening to me, like I see it in my head, like, and that's probably one of the reasons I like anime so much, because that's like what goes on in my head when people are talking. I'm seeing everything they're talking about, and so I really get kind of I have to really focus when somebody's talking, because my mind will start going off on these tangents, kind of like Ally McBeal, if you ever saw that old TV show. But yeah, it's just actually seeing things that you wish were happening or that you could make happen, but you can't, because it's reality and it's terribly boring. But yeah, it just the Hail Darth Haster, welcome. Thank you for joining us, Lady Mist. I don't know if I welcomed you in the chat. So glad to see you guys here. As I said, if any of you want to talk about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, feel free to let me know, and I will throw up a link in chat, and you guys can jump in here. In fact, I'm just going to do that. If any of you guys want to have any, especially like Purple Valkyrie, I know she's British, so she may have an insight into this that's better than mine. So if I can figure out how to, there we go. Sorry, this is obnoxious to try and do while you're streaming. So that's why I'm doing it, right? So there we go. And let's pop that up into the chat. Boom, there it is. So there's the link if you want to jump in and talk with me about this subject. I don't have my headphones, so yeah, I may have to have you start talking for a minute while I run away and get my headphones. Like I said, I moved my office yesterday, so everything's everywhere. But yeah, no, it is. I can't remember what I was talking about. So anyway, there's Arthur Dent. He's trying to stop these bulldozers, and all this stuff's going on. And the guy turns to him and goes, "You know how much damage that bulldozer would sustain if it was to roll over the top of you? None at all." I love that line, and he just turns around and walks off, and Arthur's laying there like, "What?" It just, I don't know. That's what I mean. The one-liners and just the things that happen in the book are they're just so funny. But Arthur Dent is just this poor sap who gets drugged through this adventure kind of against his will. And before we go any further, I hope you guys all brought your towel, because if you know anything about the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, you know you need a towel, which is terrible because I actually forgot to bring one in. So I forgot my towel. It's over. I'm dead. But the whole idea comes from this book called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which Ford Prefect is actually someone who's like an editor or like somebody who works for them to try and help them get entries into this book, which is supposed to be its only competition is the Encyclopedia Galactica. And it talks about how it's only better than that in two ways. It's smaller and it's more cost effective, and it costs less. Anyway, but it's just these obscure ideas that they're throwing out throughout the story. But Arthur Dent, he's played by, in the movie, as I said, he's played by Martin Friedman, and he does a good job. And but in the book, he's much more confused by the whole experience that's happening to him, and I really loved that aspect of that. That is this adventure happening to him kind of against his will, because he gets drugged off the planet by Ford Prefect trying to save his life. And Ford Prefect is an alien. He's been stuck on Earth for 15 years trying to get off the planet, and but he just hasn't been able to. Which comes into play later when he finds out that Zaphod Beeblebrox actually was on Earth and picked up Trillian. And he was trying to get he was trying to get off the world, and Zaphod was there and could have taken him and didn't. But hail Curtis, thanks for popping in. Curtis YZ, and he says Marvin is great in it. I've never read the book based off the movie a lot. Yeah. Marvin is a hilarious character. I mean, he's an annoying, obnoxious character, kind of like Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory, because he's just down on everything. But it's so funny to see that coming from the perspective of a robot. That is what really, really makes it funny. And I apologize, my throat's getting dry, so I have to try your drink right in the middle. I know, right? Rude. Didn't even offer you guys any. What a jerk. Anyway, but so, I mean, each one of the characters in this is just fantastic. They're characters. They're all people who are nothing but characters. And, that if you met them in life, you'd just think, you are the strangest person I've ever met. And that's what makes them so great and so memorable, is that Douglas Adams wrote them in such a way is that they just stick with you. And some of the comments and stuff, I'll be driving along or I'll be interacting with somebody and I'll have quotes from the book come to me because of something somebody has said. And that's how I know I really like something, or that something is really that good, is that it sticks with you long term. And it makes you look at the world differently. And that's something that very few of us have the ability to do. I probably don't nearly as much as I wish I did. But it is just it really is just funny. The stuff when they get to Slarty Bartfast, which is like my favorite name ever for any character ever in any book I've ever. Slarty Bartfast. And he comes into the story later on when they actually get to the planet of Magrathea. But it is just, like I said, every character is just so well thought out. And I mean, you don't really get a lot of backstory, and that's the fun thing. You don't need it, because this is just an adventure flying forward. You're just kind of caught in the middle of what's going on, just like Arthur is. And that's kind of how he wrote it, was he wanted you to feel like you were caught in this adventure with these guys. But yeah, in between waking up and this I must have missed something in the chat, but Vegas sounds like me trying. Let me put this up here. Sounds like me trying to get out of Kentucky for 10 years. Yes, exactly. But nobody's come to. I come to Kentucky. I come through Kentucky a lot, but they don't let us take passengers. So sorry. But yeah. So I mean, but Zaphod Beeblebrox is the president of the galaxy. And the job description for the president of the galaxy is basically to distract everyone from what's really going on. And that's the funny thing, is when they talk about the president of the galaxy, I kind of feel like it's like Douglas Adams saw what was going to happen in our current political climate. Anybody who watches politics or pays attention to politics at all knows that our politicians are nuts. They are all just, pardon my French, batshit crazy, every single one of them. And I feel like that's what's going on, is that they're not being elected to help run anything anymore. They're just being elected to keep us all distracted. Like, hey, everybody, look over here. Don't pay attention to the fact that we're stealing all your money and we're burning down cities. And that's what it's like. And so this kind of resonates with me, just because Beeblebrox is this just crazy guy who's had a third arm attached, who's had a second head attached. He's extremely clever, but not all at once. And so he's completely confused by his own cleverness. It's like he wrote President Trump into the book. No, just kidding. I don't want to get too political about it, but that's what makes this great. Is it makes you laugh about things that you wouldn't otherwise be able to laugh at. Like, there's one particular section where a sperm whale is brought into existence through the instead of having a warp drive, the ship called the Heart of Gold has the infinite probability drive. And so it passes through every place in the universe simultaneously when it activates its drive, and then it immediately transports you to where you wanted to go. But you pass through every point in the universe as you're doing it. And anyway, they activate this at one point to get rid of a couple of missiles that were launched at them. And it turns one into a pot of petunias and the other one into a sperm whale. And then he actually goes in and tells you the recorded thoughts for what the sperm whales, like, entire life expectancy, because it was brought into existence while in the air. And so he tells you what's going on in this whale's mind as it hits the ground and dies. Just so funny. I don't know. I mean, just a pot of petunias. Who would have even thought of that? You changed a missile into a pot of petunias. I love petunias. I just like saying that word. It sounds funny for a flower. But yeah, it's just, and I know I'm jumping around here, because if you haven't read this or watched the movie, then I mean, I want to keep it confusing enough that when you actually do read it, you're going to be like, oh, that's what he's talking about. That's not at all where he said that was. So that's a way to keep you surprised, and confused, which is how I like people. But I just think this was, it's something that if you just need a good laugh, if you just need to unplug from the world and look at things in just a hilariously obscure way. This is the book. This is the book to do it. But in the middle of all that, it just like there's some poignant things that come out about it. There's even like a couple of cops that show up in this, a space police that show up to try and arrest them while they're on Magrathea. And it is so funny because like the cops' conversation, because they have kilo zap guns, another just such a good name for a gun. I want to get like a 45 caliber with kilo zap gun on this, like stenciled into the side of it, just to say I have that. Because that's hilarious. It's an awesome name for a gun. But it is so they're sitting there and they're shooting these kilo zap guns to try and arrest the Zaphod Beeblebrox, Ford Prefect, and Trillian. And the conversation between the cops is just absolutely hilarious. It is. They're like, hey, we're not, no, we're not thuggish guys. We're really kind-hearted and gentle. If you got to know us, we'd be like the people you want to have beer with. As they're trying to shoot them with kilo zap guns, and then they're like, we could let you go, but we're not going to do that. Let's shoot them some more. Okay, there's this conversation, and it's just like, wow. Police brutality, but it's done in such a funny, odd way that I don't know. Like I said, this is absolutely a book for this year. If you want to look at 2020 through the eyes of a very funny way of looking at it, read this book seriously. And I suggest the audiobook because Stephen Fry reading this is fantastic. He does such a good job. With the voices and just he knows how to nail that British humor so that like it's exactly the way I imagine that Doug Adams wrote it. And this is only the first in a series of 5 books. The actual all the other books that are kind of go along with the series, and I haven't read them yet. I'm still trying to get through. I have a list of books that I need to read that's like long. But so the other ones are Restaurant at the Edge, at the End of the Universe, which is actually one of the last lines in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Life, the Universe, and Everything. So Long and Thanks for the Fish. And Mostly Harmless. And there's another one, but I don't know if he wrote it, called And Another Thing. I don't know if that's particularly in this series, but because that's that So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, we come to find out that human beings are not the most intelligent beings or the only intelligent life on Earth before it's destroyed. That dolphins and mice are smarter, and that mice, we think we've been experimenting, and this is what I mean. Douglas Adams turns this on its head and makes it hilarious that the mice have actually been experimenting on us by reacting in weird ways to confuse us to see how we'll react. It turns the whole scientist versus white mice thing completely on its head. And just like and Curtis says it's brilliant. It is just a brilliant way of looking at things. But the other is dolphins. And that dolphins were trying to warn humanity about the impending destruction of Earth. But they misunderstood because it was done in the form of bouncing balls on their nose, lots of clicks, and jumping through hoops and stuff. Oh, yeah. And so the last message the dolphins sent us before they fled or before they left Earth, before the destruction, was so long and thanks for all the fish. Yes. Oh, yes, the trilogy in 5 parts. That's another one of Douglas Adams. Is just fantastic way of writing something in an obscure manner that just makes you go, I wish I was that clever. I wish I'd have thought of that. But Yeah, and I hope to get through them all at some point. The problem is like the one most of the time with audiobooks, I have to with books, I have to do audiobooks because I don't have time to read most books. Um, and so while I'm driving to and from different places in my truck, I like to listen to audiobooks, and it's a different reader than Stephen Fry. And I've just been like, I don't know if I want that because Stephen Fry did such a good job. Um, but yeah, it really is just something that is perfect for this year, and it will help you just kind of walk away with this sense of, yep, we're all nuts, but you know what? We can have fun in the craziness, and you don't have to always be mad about everything. I'm mad a lot of the time about everything. And so this book helps me to not be mad about everything. That's why I listen to it about once every 6 months because it helps keep me sane. Um, but yeah, so I mean, so the Earth's destroyed for a bypass. Arthur Dent has to drink a bunch of beer and have a towel before they transport off of the Earth. And they do that by an electronic thumb. And that's how they get picked up by space by passing spaceships to it's one of the things that they talk about in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is that you can see the galaxy for 30 Altarian dollars a day, I think, by using the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. um, it is just so funny. But one of my favorite things about this is GPP. And that means computers or robots with genuine people personalities. And Marvin talks about this in one part of the book. And he's just like, it is so awful. He's like, what a terrible idea. Like giving machines people personalities. And like, so the ship that they're on, the Heart of Gold, has this also. And the, the personalities of this computer are like a really femmy gay guy and stuff. Hi there, and and Stephen Fry does this voice for him that is just hilarious. Um, that I don't know, it just makes it fantastic to watch. So Curtis YZ says, I honestly was so confused the first time I saw fish stuff. By the end of the movie, I didn't want it to end. I know, right? It is. It is that looking at the world through a kaleidoscope kind of a view. And nobody does that quite as well as the British. I mean, there's some American guys that are talented this way, but it really is kind of a British satirist talent that they seem to have in spades. And it's one of the and it's one of the reasons I love so many of their comedies. Because they just kind of bring that to what they're doing, especially in comedy and stuff like that. There's other aspects where it's a little different, but um, so and then as we were talking about earlier, Marvin is this depressed robot that's on the Heart of Gold and is just constantly down. And at one point when the cops are trying to kill the three people on Magrathea, Marvin goes to the cop's spaceship, which is parked next to the Heart of Gold, and talks to the computer, depresses the police officer's computer so bad it commits suicide and kills the cops with it because their suits are dependent on the ship. So he essentially saves them by talking their computer to death because he's so depressing to listen to. Um, it's just it really is just classic. Um, but the the life, the universe, and everything is one of the things, and it kind of becomes the heart. It really is kind of the heart of the whole story once you get into it, because the Earth ends up being a computer program that is being run by trans-dimensional beings to figure out the question of life, the universe, and everything. So so like we're a part of an organic computer, and that's the whole idea of this story, is that the Earth is an organic computer to figure out this question. And a couple of seconds before the program is due to be completed, the Earth is destroyed by the Vogons to create a spatial bypass that doesn't need to be created because it's obsolete. Because the heart of gold now has the infinite probability drive. It's just, oh, it, it is almost impossible to put this book in any one category. I mean, it's a comedy, it's a satirist, or a satire, pardon me. You know, there's serious, there's drama, there's all these different things where they end up wanting to cut Arthur's brain out of his head so that they can get the answer to this question, because these guys don't want to have to build the Earth again and run the program all over again to get this answer. They just want to go back home and tell everybody what the answer to life, the universe, and everything is. And so it really ends up that they end up trying to figure out how they can fake the answer, so that they can just go home and they don't have to redo the experiment, which means the Earth isn't rebuilt. It started to be rebuilt by the Magrathians, and you'll have to go find out in the book who they are. But Slarty Bartfast is one. But yeah, it really was just it's a fun romp all the way through. You can go watch the movie, but if you watch the movie and then read the book, you're going to be like, what the hell? Where did all this stuff in the movie come from? Like, because like there's a character that's played by in the film. Let me pull it back up here. John Malkovich, and he's not even in the book. Like that character, I don't know if I think the character's mentioned in the book, but it's like there's no part of him that's in that book. And there's a lot, and the funny thing is when you watch the movie, there's a computer called Deep Thought. That computer is actually voiced by Helen Mirren. So you have to watch that movie, and then while you're hearing that computer talk, you just need to think, this is Helen Mirren. You'll be like, what? She sounds like a dude. Well, that's the wonders of digital technology. But yeah, no, it's I cannot recommend this book highly enough. Like I say, and once you've listened or read the book, you will never be able to watch that film. I remember going to the theater, like we went opening day with my brother because he's a big Douglas Adams fan and loves loves Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. In fact, he'll call me up and we'll quote it at each other, and just for fun because it's funny. But yeah, it's a oh hey Black Angus, welcome, thanks for coming. But yeah, it really is it is worth every moment that you will spend with this book, and I'm hoping that the others are just as good. I have not, like as I said, I haven't got through them yet. But yeah, it really just, it'll pull you in, it'll make you laugh, and it'll make you feel like, all right, we're gonna be okay. I can't stress that enough. Until like 5 minutes later when you turn the news on, then you're gonna be like, nope, we're all gonna die. We are so dead. We are dead, 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 dead. Anyway, which that reminds me of a part in the book. It's like he's talking about what the horrible things you can do to a human being to unnerve them is to walk up to another human being and say, blood, 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 blood. I'm just like, what? Where did that even come from? But it's talking about how somebody's been unnerved, and the only way you could do that any better is to walk up to another human being and do it. And I just thought, I need to try that at some point. I really need to see if that works. Just walk up to a complete stranger or somebody that has really pissed me off and just say blood to them in a creepy voice 4 times and see if it works. Because, I mean, it's got to work if Doug Adams said so. Another thing you'll notice is that they spend a lot of time talking about digital watches in the book and how humans' lives seem to revolve around digital watches, which, we digital watches aren't as much of a thing, but now we've replaced them with heart monitors and footstep counters and iWatches and Samsung watches. And so it's still relevant. And that's the great thing about this. Even though this book was written back in like 76, it is still relevant to things going on today. Um, a little bit of it's kind of different, but it still rings true, and that's what makes it fun. Is it feels timeless, and how many books can say that there isn't so many like politics or whatever in any one thing to where like it doesn't feel dated other than like some of the names like the kilo zap gun. I can see that being a 70s thing because I grew up in the 70s, so I totally get that's a 70s thing. Because we had candies called Zaps in the 70s. Of course, we also had candy cigarettes. So, um, but yeah, and then it talks about digital watches and the fact that most people on Earth are so unhappy because they spend most of their lives chasing around little bits of green paper. And that took me I mean, the first time I heard that, I'm like, and I'm like, he's talking about money. I mean, it took me a minute though, but it's like realistically, if you think about it, that people are miserable in their lives because they're chasing little bits of paper. And I'm like, that really puts a perspective on money and on the focus of our lives and how kind of silly and petty we all can kind of be over stuff. I mean, it's important because it just is important, I guess. But I mean, it really puts things into perspective in a very funny way. Um, but uh, but yeah, so I encourage you all go get this audiobook, even go see the movie, and appreciate it for what it is. A terrible attempt to make a film about a fantastic book. That happens so much that I think it's kind of the norm. I can't remember the last time I think Hollywood ever actually took a book and made it into a decent film, because there's always some smack-headed, doped up, idiotic screenwriter who thinks, this book sold 50 million copies, but I bet I can do it better. No, nobody wants your better. They want you to give them a vision of what the author already did. They're fans of the author, not you. That's why everybody knows who Douglas Adams is, and nobody's ever heard of Bob Stevenson, the screenwriter, unless you're like super good, and that doesn't happen very often. So, I mean, I couldn't tell you the names of screenwriters. Um, but yeah, yeah, no, and Curtis, I mean, if you've never read the book, the movie is actually pretty funny. Like I said, one of my favorite parts in that is when the hands are slapping him in the face for having thoughts because they don't want them to have thoughts. So, I mean, it really is. It's just a funny thing. So, but yeah, I mean, go listen to Eddie the Computer, um, and all these other fantastic characters. You will not be sorry. And if you are, then Lord, I apologize, and be with the starving pygmies down there in New Guinea. Amen. But let me know what you think. Come back, leave a comment on the live stream. I leave my live streams up because I want to hear what you pardon me, what you guys think about the things I'm talking about, and if it was worthwhile for you. But seriously, I bought, and like I said, when I can sit there and re-listen to a book that much, I mean, to the point where I feel like I've almost got it memorized at this point. Um, and until I actually sit down and try and talk about it on the on the air, and then my mind just goes. That's why I have notes laid out in front of me, because I'm like, if I don't have notes to remind myself what I want to talk about, I'll be staring at the camera thinking it's going to steal my soul. Just kidding. Sorry, I know it probably creeped everybody out. Sorry for that. But yeah, it is really worth it. Go and enjoy this. Let me know what you think. If you don't enjoy it, tell me why you didn't enjoy it. because I want to be able to tell you you're nuts. You are super crazy for not liking this book. Um, but yeah, Lady Miss, the like I said, the movie is good for what it is. It's just it really paled in comparison to the book, and they departed too much, and they didn't use enough of the actual humor from the book, because it would have been way funnier had they actually done that. But anyway, so that's where I'm going to leave it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this. And like I say, let me know what you think, because I am interested. So for my streams next week, next Saturday at 7 Central, we will be doing Expanding the Expanse, and that will be over episodes 7 and 8. It will be a live watch party. So please come watch, be involved in the chat. If you want to actually be on the stream, shoot me a DM and let me know, and I'll bring you in and have you talk, because I always like to have other people on talking with me to kind of liven things up, and to give other perspectives. Or if you just want to be in the chat, then please come, because it's the Expanse. It's so good. Why wouldn't you come and watch it in a group? I'm actually next week. I'm on a diet, so I can't have very much popcorn. But I'm going to make a little thing of popcorn so that I can come and watch it with popcorn, because it's just so damn good. And I'm going to start doing that. And you're going to hear me. I'm going to crunch and make noise all the way through. So make you jealous. And then next Sunday on Speaking with the Speaker, we will be going back to our anime theme, and we will be covering another fantastic anime called Soul Eater, which it's one of me and my kids' favorites. And I think they're looking forward to this because they want to come and participate on this. Because they love these animes as much as I do. I hope you'll join me for those, and I'll put them in Twitter and let you guys know when things are coming. Thank you for being here tonight. I hope you enjoy it, and just remember, keep your towel with you at all times, and you'll be okay. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Bye now. Well, if I can click on the button.